Welcome to Lawyer on the Line.
Welcome to Lawyer on the Line. I'm your host, Roger Riedmiller, and
I'm Mark Scott,
with the law office of
Riedmiller Andersen Scott here in Wichita, Kansas.
We are attorneys that handle workers' compensation, personal injury, automobile accident, with kind of an emphasis on truck accidents that will sometimes bleed over into workers' compensation claims. So we are going to be able to answer questions today involving your work comp, truck, auto accident, and explain to you the differences between those particular types of cases or claims. There are many questions that come up every day by folks calling the office asking what should they do differently since it involves two different types of claims. What do they need to watch out for? How do they go about getting benefits from one insurance company without doing damage to the other insurance claim that they have, and so forth? I want to start off talking about what the big differences are in how we treat a workers' compensation claim differently than when it involves, for example, a truck accident. For somebody who suffers an injury in such an accident while they're doing their job. Now, a little bit of a precursor on that, Mark, is people need to understand that in order for there to be a employment situation, workers' compensation coverage for an accident in the course of employment, you must have that accident arising out of and being in the course of employment.
Sure.
So arising out of basically means that it has something to do, the accident had something to do, or what you were doing at the time of the accident had something to do with your work. And in the course of means that you were pursuing that work, like you were on the clock. And there's a lot of nuances and technicalities about that. I don't want to bore you with that. I just want people to understand that is a technical legal issue that you need to talk to a lawyer right away about. That issue, if you're not sure, the insurance company is balking about paying work comp or balking about paying a personal injury claim, you need to talk to a lawyer right away. Even if they're not, I suggest you clear up that issue because, for example, traveling on the roadway, going to and from work is generally speaking not, and you have an accident, that is not going to be covered by workers' comp.
Sure. But there's a lot of scenarios that are, and sometimes people wouldn't necessarily understand that. But there can be a situation like a truck driver going to a shipping yard to load the truck with the cargo, gets injured during the loading or the unloading. That can be both a work comp claim and a third-party claim against the shipper. There can be times when somebody was in a sleeping berth and their vehicle may get hit. There's just lots of different ways that it can be both a work comp crash or case and also an accident that's related to motor vehicles or, again, loading, unloading, all kinds of different scenarios.
Well, one of the ones, I'm glad you brought that up. It just dawned on me that one of the most common occurrences is when a truck driver takes his truck home. A semi truck. You've seen that, right?
Yes, definitely.
And then the next morning they get up, they eat their breakfast, have their orange juice, and then they walk to their truck and they get in their truck and drive. Are they, or when are they in the course and scope of their employment? If they're driving to a restaurant to have breakfast, a formal breakfast, probably not. But if travel, the general rule is if travel is an intrinsic part of their employment, and their employment is a long haul or short haul driver, they're probably going to have a work comp claim if they get injured the minute they turn the key on the truck in the driveway. Even though they're at home, if they have an accident pulling out of the driveway to start their trip of travel to haul something, move something, whatever it may be, that's probably a workers' compensation claim that needs to be evaluated by a work comp lawyer, and you need to take certain steps to preserve your rights. So that's the first issue that you need to be aware of is the question, is it in the course and scope of employment? Is this travel that I'm doing that involved or caused or resulted in an accident and personal injuries, is that covered by work comp? The second question that many people have is, well, what is the difference between a work comp claim and a personal injury claim? A work comp claim is an administrative claim, okay? And
What does that mean?
It means that you go through an administrative process and you have to file administrative paperwork with the right administration. You have to file or submit a proper notice and forms to your employer that then get filed with the state of Kansas Department of Labor, Division of Workers' Compensation. They have a system called Oscar that is a software system that I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but it's a horrible system. I'm sorry, but the state spent a ton of money to get this case management system is what it kind of is, but it is clunky and difficult, but it admittedly will work eventually. You just have to know how to push the right buttons and talk to the right people.
So it sounds like you're saying I just can't sue my employer.
Right. You can't just sue your employer for this accident. Even if the employer was at fault for the accident, you have a workers' compensation claim, an administrative claim that has many different shoots to it. But a personal injury claim on that is totally different.
Okay.
And a personal injury claim, you talk to an insurance company, and then what do you do, Mark?
Oftentimes you go to an attorney to get representation in that type of a claim. But so I guess my question would be, does the process work basically the same? Am I able to go to my own doctors if I'm injured in the course of scope of work, but I'm driving and somebody else hits me? Or does my health insurance come into play? How do I get bills paid and my wage losses?
That's a later topic in this episode. But you're right. There is a big difference in medical care. There's a big difference in wage loss. But in a personal injury claim, you're not dealing with an administrative process. You're dealing with a direct insurance claim initially against your own insurance company for these medical bills and lost wages under a no-fault system. Or I shouldn't say system, it's really just a set of statutes called personal injury protection statutes that provide certain benefits to you.
Sure. And, I'm pretty familiar with those benefits. We've got a wage loss benefit, medical expense up to a certain limit. There's a few different benefits, but can I claim those and also things out of the work comp system?
That's where it gets tricky. It really does get tricky. As long as they're not duplicative. In other words, you can't recover a wage loss in work comp and recover that same wage loss in PIP. Now, you in workers' compensation, let's get into the meat of the work comp claim,
okay,
and the meat of the personal injury claim. In work comp, you get 2/3 of your gross average weekly wage, up to a current state maximum of $869 per week. In PI,
well, we've got a totally different system in PI. Of course, your PIP benefits are only going to pay a certain amount, but I can proceed and claim all of my clients' wage losses in a personal injury case whereas you're limited to 2/3, which is can be pretty substantial depending on the amount of wage earned.
Not just 2/3, but I have many employees who make $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a week. They got a good paying job, but they're only going to collect the maximum of $869. So they're shorted when they're completely off work. They don't collect all of their lost wages in work comp. It's my understanding, having read the case law on the subject matter, you can collect the difference up to your policy limit. And I'm trying to think of a hypothetical.
Well, it's difficult to think of. The minimum we have to have for wage loss per month in a Kansas insurance policy is just $900 a month, or 80% of the gross wages. So that makes a difference of if your maximum is just below 900, there's not a big difference in between there, and the interplay is very interesting.
But I have some clients who have purchased no fault insurance coverage for a lot more wage loss than the minimum.
Yeah, I've seen a $1,500 a month benefit, and I think a $1,750. So in that instance, you can try to get the work comp to pay their share, and then anything up and above that can come from your own PIP policy.
The PIP policy pays the lower of the wage loss benefit that you bought, or 85%. Correct?
Yes.
Whereas work comp only pays 2/3, the lower amount of these two figures, 2/3 or $869. Okay, so that's the current law and standard right now, and that's the big difference between work comp and personal injury claims on wage loss that we have to fight all of the time. It's not simple. I'm trying to break it down as simple as possible, but there are some caveats to those as well. In the work comp system, for example, if you're on Social Security retirement, there's almost no weekly work comp benefit you can get except for the functional impairment, which is on down the road in the case. Okay, so it's going to have a significant, profound effect on your wage loss on the work comp claim. On the other hand, I don't think you have that exclusion.
No, there's not.
The PIP wage loss.
Correct.
So that's one of the reasons why we have kind of specialized in this area. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that anymore. It used to be you couldn't call a lawyer a specialist, but I think that's changed. So we've concentrated our practice here lately on doing work comp and work comp truck accident cases. Okay. And so that's a difficult issue, the wage loss in those types of cases. Another difficult issue is the one that Mark jumped the gun on me, is medical care.
Right.
In a dream world, okay, I could choose my own healthcare provider, go where I want to go, when I want to go, and as long as I had the money or the insurance, it would be taken care of. We don't live in that fantasy land. In work comp, you don't even get to choose who you get to go to. The employer and or its work comp insurance carrier has first choice. And in order to change that, you have to go to an administrative or through an administrative process and have a hearing in front of an administrative law judge, and or get the opposing lawyer to agree to let you go to somebody else. In a personal injury case,
yeah, you can go to your family doctor. Your family doctor can get you to a specialist. You can get to a specialist on your own. You don't need that pre-approval that you would in the work comp system. Now, if you have health insurance and it has some exclusions and requirements, you might need to have a referral. But you do have the ability to go to the doctors generally that you want and the specialists you want, because you get a catastrophic injury and you want a very good neurosurgeon if you have a spinal injury. And we want the best care possible for ourselves, obviously, but you don't get that in the work comp system always.
No, you really are restricted by who you can get the insurance company or their lawyer to agree to, or if you can get an administrative law judge to agree to let you go to somebody else that they have chosen. You really don't have free choice in the workers' compensation system with respect to medical care, but it has a profound effect on both your work comp and your personal injury care as to who you see. If you don't get to a qualified physician, it could have a devastating impact on your personal injury claim.
Definitely, especially when you're dealing with the possibility of future medical care. And that kind of gets into a topic that we're going to be talking about in the future. But very interesting.
The other benefit that you see in work comp that you don't necessarily see in personal injury is mileage reimbursement for going to and from a healthcare provider appointment. You can get reimbursed. I believe the rate is 70 cents per mile now for any round trip greater than 5 miles. Well, that's pretty significant.
That is.
Especially, but it's pretty important in nowadays because we have the price of gas going, what, $5? It's over 4 now, I believe. It's been fluctuating quite a bit here.
So we can claim those in a personal injury case, but you're saying you can get that reimbursed while that's being incurred.
Right in the case.
So that is a good difference.
30 to 90 days after you submit the medical mileage on a proper form, you can usually get those reimbursed. Sometimes it's longer because of the frequency of the trips that you've made. The insurance company wants to make sure you made all of those trips to the physical therapist. So they'll order the medical records from the physical therapist in order to get those verified that you made those trips, made those appointments. Pharmacy is just a matter of, drugs can be really expensive, and sometimes you have to pay for those out of your own pocket in order to get them right then and there. You can get reimbursed for those medications as long as they come from an authorized source, meaning a doctor prescribed you to take a painkiller that's not over the counter, and you can go to the pharmacy and get that painkiller, but waiting for the insurance company to approve it is not necessary, except you may have to pay cash for it and then get reimbursed for it. So you shouldn't be out of any pocket for pharmacy. It's just a process that you have to go through. The payment of medical bills is also a little bit different. In the workers' compensation system, there's they call a work comp fee schedule. Okay. And the work comp fee schedule, the insurance company and doctors have to follow. But once it's in the work comp system, that's it. Meaning you can't be billed for anything beyond that work comp fee schedule.
So we don't have deductibles.
You don't have to pay deductible. You don't have to pay co-insurance. You do not have to pay anything. Personal injury side it's a bit different usually.
Yeah. And we've got, of course, there's always statutes that control, but we have a statute that provides for, in your car insurance, a no-fault benefit that we spoke about. And here in Kansas, if you have a crash in medical expenses, you go first to your own car insurance, and it pays, thankfully, without a deductible on the medical expenses. They have 30 days after submission of a medical bill to pay that. But generally the medical benefit is low. $4,500 is the minimum we have to have. And you can go with an ambulance and an ER visit for something relatively simple and exhaust that out. And then after that, if you have a health insurance, then your health insurance comes into play. But the big thing is, if you don't have health insurance, those providers are going to be wanting your money right then. So a big difference from the work comp system.
So medical is important, but you need to traipse lightly on that. The last couple issues are liens and second, or the two settlements. Work comp has a lien for all of the benefits that they provided you on the personal injury claim. However, there are some exceptions.
Yeah, there are some exceptions. So in the work comp system, you don't get pain and suffering, I understand, as part of your damages.
Right.
In our kind of in personal injury cases, there is that ability, but the one big exception is on loss of consortium payments. So if there's damages from somebody not being able to have the same relationship with their spouse because of the injury, and that can be in a wide variety of different settings, the work comp doesn't have a lien for damages that are awarded for loss of consortium. So that's a difference. And then the other one is if a co-employee is negligent, then that can decrease the amount of the work comp lien. But the work comp lien can be very sizable in these cases. And we find of great assistance to have an attorney that's helping you on both those cases to then try to reduce down that lien or make sure that all that's being included in the lien is supposed to be there.
Right.
Because we get liens all the time that include a nurse that may be hired by the insurance company to go to the doctors, and they try to claim that as part of the lien, and that's not part of the lien.
Well, and then you have the settlement in the work comp case, and you have a settlement in the personal injury case. The work comp claim almost should always be settled first before the personal injury claim, for just exactly what Mark just described to you, because there are benefits paid by work comp that could be excluded in the lien in the personal injury matter. We are just about out of time. If you had a question that we haven't answered here today, you can always contact Riedmiller Andersen and Scott by going to the website www.lawyerontheline.com and leaving us a question. We'd also ask you that if you found that this podcast was useful, what is it?
Like and subscribe.
Like us and subscribe to us. Thanks again for watching Lawyer on the Line podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.